Thank you, General. When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve.
Yeah, irony is lost on these people. They will go out there with the straightest of faces and say that. When I saw that, I said to myself, dude, you have no self-awareness whatsoever. Because he wants to talk about attacking our nation's capital and saying if you do that, you're attacking the very heart and soul of this country. And yet Donald Trump gave a blanket pardon to all of the criminals and all of the terrorists that attacked our nation's capital on January 6th. And how many times here on the channel have we broke down stories of people he pardoned who went right back out on the street to molest, to rape, and to break the laws again? It's absolutely disgusting to take a stand there and say this stuff with a straight face. But I'm going to be talking about Patel and Dan Bongino today and how that they went from being these podcasters that was all about exposing the deep state to now working within the FBI. And it's crazy to me that they can come out and say these things and the followers will just roll with it. If I had have sat and listened to Dan Bongino for years, and I believed Dan Bongino when he told me there was a deep state, when he told me there was a cover-up happening, when he told me that if they could get in there, they would expose all that crime and corruption. If I really believed that, and I latched on to every word he said for years, and then I saw him go on Fox News and say out loud that he was paid for his opinions, I would have a problem with it. I don't know about you, but I would really be pissed off. Not MAGA, but yeah, that's exactly what he does in this next clip.
You know, I don't know if you remember this. This is before you became the deputy FBI director. You put a post on X right after this happened, and you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, you know, long before you even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think as the, again, legal process starts to surface and information and facts start to come out, the public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this. But I don't want to, you know, listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director. And we base investigations on facts. And, you know, it was interesting. I was looking out in the crowd today at the presser, and I saw a couple of media figures who you and I both know who promoted the other scandal, the collusion hoax. And I thought to myself, you know, the difference between us and them is, you know, we evolve. As information and new inputs come out, we can produce different outputs because that's what we believe in. We believe in facts and investigations guided by facts. There were people out there in that crowd, I'm sure still believe in this collusion fairy tale hoax. So we'll see. We're going to be guided by the facts as this thing goes forward. And I also, I can't stop the, you know, leave the truck here without thanking the president. The president.
Damn, there is so much to unpack in that one clip because he just went all in and admitted to everything. And he says, what's funny to me, first of all, is John Hannity sounds like he's so close to getting it. It's like he's so close to just calling this guy out and busting his balls. It's like he's right there on the edge, but he can't go too hard on him. He's got to like say it, but you could almost hear the frustration in Hannity's voice, but he was paid for his opinions. So he was paid to say the things that he said. So is he saying that the whole thing was just a big hoax that they created to help Trump get elected? This promise that Trump would come in and expose the deep state and drain the swamp, that's what we were supposed to believe? So he was paid for those opinions to just push the bullshit, but now that he has the facts, he's going to come at us from a different angle? And he thinks that people are going to be comfortable, the American people are going to be comfortable with this investigation. I'm not comfortable with any investigation that people like him and Kash Patel are working on because they've made careers being paid to spread lies and bullshit They don't evolve either. That's bullshit when he says, oh, we evolve with our opinions. No, you don't. You didn't evolve with your opinions. What happened was you made a podcast off of these conspiracy theories that you pumped out to your crowd to help Donald Trump get elected. And you thought if we can just get him over the finish line and get him elected, then that'll be good. They'll all shut up. They're ignorant. See, people like Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, it's not just Trump. People that supports Trump needs to understand that his entire regime looks down on you as peons. They all look down on you as easily manipulated people. That's why all these people became yes men to Trump. That's why you got people like RFK Jr. chomping at the bit for a spot. That's why you have people like Pete Hegseth. That's why you have this whole disastrous regime, is because they realized that the grift was working. They sat back and watched him sell Bibles. They sat back and watched him sell digital trading cards. They sat back and watched him take his mugshot, put it on a t-shirt, and sell it to the people with the quote above his head that said, never surrender. A picture of him surrendering, people still bought it. They saw the grift, and they played the grift till they got there, and then they realized that it was going to be their job to cover it up, that it was going to be their job to hide it. They didn't think that the audience would continue to hold their feet to the fire. They thought they could just be quiet about it and shut up. And it's absolutely crazy to me now to sit back and watch Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who built their entire career off of pushing these conspiracy theories. Now they want to sit back and say that well, now we're dealing in facts. I was paid for my opinions back then, and maybe one day I will be back in that role. So when this is all over for him, however it ends, and he's back and has a podcast, and he starts spreading and pumping more conspiracy theories to his audience, just remember he was paid to do that. He was paid for his opinions then. He was paid to cover up the deep state and to keep the swamp the same. And he'll be paid to create another story once he's gone. That's why the guy was always full of shit. And he's even more full of shit, just as much as Kash Patel was in the clip that opened this video when he said that if you attack the Capitol, Bongino says that this president absolutely hates crime.
The president, you know very well, just like I do, Sean, he told us early, I said it on your show before, I'm going to say it again. He was like, boys, you go get him. This president absolutely hates crime. He hates the idea of someone causing a national security crisis in his city in Washington, D.C. He could not have been more supportive about these investigations.
Again, he pardoned a group of people who attacked the Capitol. He has pardoned more criminals. He's pardoned more people than any president. He just does it all the time. That's all he does now. All you have to do is tell him that it was some sort of Biden witch hunt or some kind of Biden hit job on somebody. All somebody has to do is complain and whine and cry and say, I was treated unfairly by Biden. And if they say those magic words, they'll be out on the streets. If I was anybody that had been in prison for a long time and I looked out into the world and saw this stuff happening, I would absolutely be going for it. I mean, I don't know why anyone wouldn't at this point. I don't know how Patricia Krenwinkel from the Manson family, I don't know how in the world that she didn't go ahead and get out. Because she's in California. All she had to say was Gavin Newsom done it. All she had to say was it was Gavin Newsom's fault. She couldn't get out. And she loved Trump. And if she'd have just went on there with a MAGA hat and said that, she would be right back out. So it's crazy to me that they want to sit there and tell me that this president is about law and order and he hates crime. He don't like seeing people attack our Capitol. It makes him mad. He don't like it at all. But yet he turns around and he pardons criminals every day. He pardons people bringing drugs into the country while they blow up boats and say we were blowing up those boats because they were bringing drugs into the country. But we'll go ahead and pardon this guy who was doing 45 years for smuggling cocaine. What it boils down to, folks, is Donald Trump will pardon you if you're rich and if you will support him. That's what Donald Trump does. If you're rich and you'll support him, he will absolutely go to bat for you. If you're just some poor person trying to make it in this world, you ain't got a shot. If you're somebody trying to come to this country to make a better way for yourself, he doesn't want you to have a shot. He was a spoiled, pampered, rich kid his whole life. And I don't think the guy ever really grew up. In my mind, he never grew up. He never became a man. He is still every bit as spoiled, still every bit as pampered, still every bit as a brat as he ever was. And so his ego is so fragile and his skin is just so thin that all you got to do is tell him Biden done something and he'll go out of his way. That's why he's obsessed with this auto pen at the moment. That's exactly why. He's obsessed with the auto pen because he wants to find a way to undo everything that Joe Biden did. And meanwhile, he goes out there, he nods off, he falls asleep, and it coming from the guy that called him Sleepy Joe for all those years. But remember what Dan Bongino said. I really want you to remember this one. And if you hung into this video and you're someone who disagrees with me, but you watch every video to pick apart what I say, just remember Dan Bongino was paid to tell you those things back then. He's being paid to keep those things a secret now, and he already admitted that one day he might be back in that world. So trust me, when he's back in that world pumping conspiracy theories, he's being paid again. Because people like that will always follow the money. They will always follow the grift. And that's exactly what Donald Trump's regime did. They saw the grift working and they jumped on board.